Hey everyone, I guess I'll go ahead and get started. This is Ryan Baker of Pixelscopic. I do the art and lots of other random things on Delver's Drop. Today I'm going to be working on spell art, so magic stuff. I was working on the list and I need to kind of knock out some of the generic effects sooner rather than later so we can actually do some spells. So these are basically going to be what I call elementally agnostic effects, where basically we could tint them and add other kind of effects on top of them to make them look fiery or icy or whatever. But the effect itself that I'll be drawing is generic. It's elemental independent. It's just like, this is what I'm working on right now. This is just a fuzzy aura to show that you have some kind of status effect placed on you. So this would this could be anything from a buff to a debuff, poison to higher attack power for a limited period of time, and we would basically make a grayscale or usually a white effect and tint it, so add something like this blue color to it. I'm probably going to be doing these in color just because it makes it a little bit easier for me to kind of see what I'm doing and how pieces would layer, because as you can see, this has sparkles thrown over the top of it. The sparkles exist somewhere else. I'm just going to doodle some to see what it looks like. But these, we could have sparkles, or these could be like something that looks like a drop of water or a poison bubble or something like that for some different effects. Which actually makes me realize that I probably need some kind of a particle type indicator for status effects, like that water drop and so on. So I probably need to add that to this database that I'm working out of. So, yeah. I will probably do those later, but I just needed to make a note of it so I remembered to do it at some point. So yeah, I made a folder for a bunch of our, it's pretty much the full list of different magic types here, generic magic effects. So auras, positive enchantments, negative enchantments, those are basically going to be the same thing, just a reversed effect, so it'll kind of fly up if it's a positive enchantment or buff, and kind of like melds downward if it's a negative effect, with those kinds of sound effects. And we've got area of effect bursts, explosions, bubbles, clouds of gas, summons. These summons wouldn't be companions. It would just be I'm calling it a summon, but it's basically just a magic spell that that summons some kind of spirit, but the spirit won't like fly around the room and do anything. It would just be like a visual showing, like, oh, there's the presence of a demigod over you or something like that. There's a Zephyr, which would be a gust of wind that kind of flies around the room. Various energy balls, magic missiles, magic orbs, jets. That's like a cone or like flamethrower of magic energy. Geysers, what I'm calling spear. Actually, I think I'm going to call that, I don't know. Not sure what to call that. Spear, spike, something like that. I kind of like the sound of magic spike. So those geyser and spike would be pretty much the same thing. Spike is just thinner. It'll kind of look like, there's a spell I really liked. I mean, it's one of the first ones you get to use in Final Fantasy Tactics. It's this, it's a knight skill, I believe. It's been so long since I played that game, even though it's one of my favorites, where it was stasis sword. It would shoot this sword up from the ground and cause a character to kind of stop moving. So something kind of like that, but a smaller effect. So then we've got beam, which is basically a laser beam. Magical walls, which would be just impenetrable kind of force fields. a shield that would be like a bubble sort of effect surrounding your character, and a wave, which would be kind of a shock wave. So shockwave and air of effect burst, pretty similar. Could even be overlapped on each other, and that's how a lot of this is going to work. Is that all of these things could come in any flavor of element, kind of like I was saying before. So we might have, let's see, something that's kind of easier, like for energy ball, we might have an energy ball 1 or 2, which is, it'll kind of look like a fireball, but it'll just be like a glowy orb of energy that sort of flies and, shoots into things. But if that were literally like a fireball or a lightning ball, we would add flicks of flame and tint it red for fire, and like sparks of lightning and tint it yellowish or orange or whatever for like a lightning orb or ball. So basically there will be all these permutations of elemental effects stacked on top of these kind of generic magical energy bursts. So that way we basically just draw each of these once and then do a few elemental things to stack on top, and there we go. We've got hundreds of spells in theory. So yeah, so let me check the questions. Yes, the gladiator sparkles in the sunlight. Actually, that should probably be the sorcerer, huh? Yes, I summoned Zilly, our intern, by mentioning the word Zephyr. Reading comments. Okay. Done with chat. Time to art it up, whatever. I don't know if anyone actually says that, except me when I'm being dumb. Okay, so I did the aura. This would be several kind of glowy, fuzzy things stacked on top of each other. So they would all, I can't really simulate it in Photoshop, but they would all sort of move around. I'll leave that to Nathan or aka Vacation Avenger, or an animator later on. So you didn't do AoE yet. And then I have Enchant, where we have, I did this all as one piece. It would probably be separate pieces, but these would animate and kind of streak downwards over the character, or like I said, upwards over the character, along with these kind of generic little lines or like streaks of energy. So this would be basically, if you get hit with a spell, it would go, and then if that spell had a continuing effect, it would switch to an aura state. Obviously these colors don't match, but colors don't matter here. Like I said, they're just kind of my test run colors. They'll just be changed to white or whatever later. So let's turn that off. And what to do next? What to do? Well, I guess we should just go in order probably. So we'll do some kind of an AoE. AoE is going to be a little tricky, because there are a few different ways we could do it. We could do several kind of concentric waves, like little arcs. So let me draw one here. So if this is, like, let's say this is for a hammer strike, this would be our kind of circle of impact. We'd probably have a burst in the center, just in case you could see some of this outside. Oh, forgot to turn off contiguous. Problem of my life. So, okay. So DuneSpeaker is asking, where are these effects on, or how are they created, tablets, scrolls, etc.? And honestly, it could be just about anything. I mean, there might be, I assume you're probably talking about the aura and enchantment and so on. I mean, some of them will be, they could be side effects of wand projectiles. I mean, we might have a poison wand that shoots a sort of shot of, a poison orb type thing that damages on impact, causes one of these enchantments, poisons you, and then you would have this glowing kind of nasty looking, pinkish aura around you to show like, oh, you're still poisoned. And on top of that, there would be like little bubbles or droplets or something to kind of indicate what specifically what effect it is, besides just the color, like elemental indicator, since we have this kind of color spectrum for our elements. But there would also be tablets, scrolls, things like that would they would be like an indirect attack. Like you would use a scroll and it would poison all the enemies in the room, or poison the 3 closest enemies. Or there might be enemies that bite you and then poison you instantly. We can attach it to just about anything. Of course, this is all kind of like slowly getting off the ground, so it's not in game yet. Right now, we just have some just like regular fireball style projectiles that don't do anything quite this flashy, but that's what I'm working up to. Basically drawing these so that we have that kind of stuff available to play with, visually speaking. I'm going to get rid of this text because it's getting on my nerves. So just need to sort of wipe it out here. It's going to wipe that character in the background too, but that's okay. I don't really care. It's just a guideline sheet anyway. By the way, if you guys can hear talking in the background, that's Kobe and Kurt trying to install Linux, which is apparently both cool and painful, at the moment at least. We bought a Linux machine to do testing, development, all that stuff for the Linux build off of eBay. Actually, a good machine for super cheap, but they're trying to, I think, still install the graphics card or something like that. I don't actually know where they are in the process, but the best moment was when Kurt had done all this research online only to try to figure out what motherboard it was, because there was no like label or sticker on the motherboard itself, only to discover later that it had been on a sticker inside the panel of the tower casing all along. So that was our little laugh of the day, I suppose. Not his fault, just one of those things you don't think to look for.
Sudo space apt -get space install space xbox drv. Yep.
So yeah, status effects are a little ways out. I mean, we're going to have to do part of the system sooner rather than later. But basically, well, to understand Delver's Drop, or to maybe I guess I should say to understand our development process, there are a lot of interrelated databases that handle various things. There's obviously a weapons database. There's even a weapons category database that weapon instances inherit information from. And so the way spells and projectiles work and status effects work is all actually a little bit convoluted. Like it gets pretty abstract, even for me sometimes. So a little hard to explain just kind of off the cuff. But basically, let's see. So there is a database for projectiles. That's actually kind of the database I'm working in. I won't even bother trying to explain to you what the preloading list is, but basically, like, this is kind of a list of every general type of thing that could be spawned. How about that? Everything down to, like, potentially spawning, like, infinitely spawning, so to speak, enemies. So if there's a skeeker nest that spawns skeekers in a room, something like that, we've got to list them all here. But then there is a projectile database which has to have every instance of every size, shape, and velocity of fireball. So anything a wand can shoot references a specific instance in here. The wand can actually modify that somewhat. We're, I think, still determining how much a wand can modify the projectile, but it's a little easier to script that on the weapon side than to put, like, 20 fireballs in here for, the 20 different wands, especially, well, a lot of it can be determined by randomization too. So anyway, this database handles anything that is shot or spawned in the world. So we don't actually have a word for this, which is the bad thing. It's like spells and projectiles. So everything from a fireball to a wave of magic to a crossbow bolt has to be in this list. Everything that turrets shoot, a rock, if a turret shot a rock, would have to be here. So it's this, basically the distinction is, like, is it spawned by a weapon or an enemy, and does it have physical presence in the world? If the answer to both of those is yes, then it goes here. If the answer to those is no, like if it's something created by an enemy, but it's an intangible, invisible effect that just, poof, magic happens, then that wouldn't have to go here, probably. But, so something like even this aura that I'm creating wouldn't actually be a projectile. I don't even know. I don't think this area of effect burst would be in it would not be in the projectiles and spells database. I don't think. It's actually just an effect, but it's got to be preloaded. So anyway, messy stuff. But then there is another database called the effects database, which is kind of a generic sounding name, but basically an effect is anything that is indirectly created. So like the enchantment or aura would be one of these. It's like basically can this manifest without being shot? Like if you use a scroll and 5 things in the room, poof, 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 are all now poisoned, that's an intangible effect, and we go in the effects database. And it might reference other like visual effects and sound effects and stuff, but it is in itself an effect rather than a projectile, since projectiles have physical presence and go from point A to point B and impact, have collision, where a poison, mystical, magical thing that just, sparkles and stuff happens doesn't have a physical collision box presence. So in the effects list, that's the one thing that is maybe the most incomplete at this point out of different databases, but the idea is that you can create an effect, and it has all these parameters. Like you could say, this effect modifies the target's health, movement speed, changes their AI, does a certain amount of damage over a certain number of seconds.
Sorry.
Yes?
Do you know if we have an extension cord around here? Because that power supply is way too short. Actually, this one's long. Never mind.
I think we're using all the extension cords, but oh, okay.
This one's...
Yeah.
That other one just has like a foot long main cable, so it's like...
Let's see. Vasey was asking, will your own AoE blasts be able to hurt you? Not the gladiators for sure. So if you smack a hammer down, it'll probably overlap your hitbox, but no, it won't hurt you. And I'm not actually sure though how we're going to flag that at the moment. Probably it would happen automatically, since your own weapons, technically their collision overlaps your collision box, but they obviously don't hurt you. So, but there would probably be some spell explosions and things like that 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 could damage the user. Friendly fire, or whatever you would like to call it. So yeah, there's all those databases, or all of our databases in general, do a lot of cascading. So there's actually kind of a lot of stuff to memorize, or to know and understand if you want to mod things. Which for any new viewers, this game will be highly moddable. Actually, we already have some publicly accessible Google Docs similar to this one. I mean, this one specifically isn't available yet, but they're up on our public Google Drive folder, and we'll continue to post them there as we go along. Or you can actually just crack open the assets folder in your in the game files, and open the CSV in any kind of spreadsheet editor like Excel or whatever, and modify values there. Of course, it's easier to do and has formulas and cool stuff like that in our own kind of internal Google Docs. But yeah, those will be slowly becoming public, and obviously after the game is released, they'll all be made public. We're also going to have a wiki that explains a lot of this sort of structure. So I probably want a bit of overlap between these three. So yeah, basically we would have this area of effect burst would have pieces that kind of out from the center. I didn't do a good job of centering that, I guess. Center of the circle is about there, kind of. Still doesn't look right. But yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, so yeah. Would animate and expand out like that.
So let's see if we get sounds. If we get sounds, we're pretty much golden. Full gaming rig. Yeah, I'm gonna download after we test the sound. I'm gonna download a heavier game. Let's see what response we have. That looks really good. It looks smooth. Look like it played smooth.
I didn't see glitching, hesitation, lag. I didn't see weird artifacting or pixelation.
So I think definitely we're running off the video card.
Have to be. Or rather somehow they want to work that. It's just new.
They're on steroids.
I guess one other thing that I was going to mention is as part of the effects database, there will be various elemental effects. Like, well, fire is always the easiest example because it's like the one, well, out of all element systems, it's like the one element we can sort of control. It's a little bit harder to be like lightning, but you know, in any smoker's pocket, there's like fire from a cigarette lighter. So there will be effects for things catching on fire, being engulfed in flame, or any other kind of elemental engulf, for lack of a better word. So it would kind of be somewhere between a status effect and an environmental effect, if you want to think of it that way. But status effect's probably the easiest way to think about it. So, I mean, we would have something like an aura occurring, but it would probably have, you know, flames. I guess I turned that off, didn't I? We would have flames, you know, licking off of whatever's on fire, and there would be some kind of a radius around that fire. That means, like, if there is a box here and the collision box touches this fire aura or fire effects collision box circumference, then this box has a chance of catching on fire. Or the other way that's, I think, going to be really even more interesting is something doesn't even necessarily have to be like fire to fire to catch. You don't have to be flaming yourself to catch a box on fire. You could actually just hit it with a sword that does, a bonus 2 fire damage. And since the box is made out of wood, the material wood is doubly or triply susceptible to fire damage, so it might take 6 or 8 damage from that fire, and also simultaneously auto engulf in flame, just because it's wood and got hit by fire damage. So that's a set of rules that we're still kind of working on. We made the list of all the like materials and damage types and how those intersect. So wood, like fire versus wood, fire versus metal, and so on. Basically, your kind of Pokemon types or elements. But we have yet to kind of work out the if this box gets hit by 8 fire damage, it then gets engulfed in flame. That's I think maybe one of the coolest things that we want to do in Delver's Drop that isn't in the game yet. It's at least the part that I'm most excited about, and that's kind of why I'm working on these things again, so we have at least something ready to throw on a box to show that it's on fire. So sorry, reading some comments. Will you be able to rub the fire on enemies? Yeah, I mean, like fire will be able to spread to animate or inanimate objects as long as they are to some degree flammable. So anything that is like a flesh object, like humans, characters, they would have. We would basically set some properties that say kind of like, when you get hit by fire, do you actually catch on fire, or does it require a fire to be going and you to like bump into it to then catch on fire? Those are two sort of different scenarios. It's like one thing is highly flammable versus, you throw anything in a fire and it's eventually going to burn, right? So anyway.
I can tell you this runs better than that shitty Sony laptop. No, laptop's not on.
So let's go.
That one, yeah. Let's look at the first one. Is going to be there you go. It's even like 5 gigs now.
Because this is supposed to be
Oh,
big.
no, no, it's original.
No links.
There's no install button. No links.
So how do we?
You just have to click on one to see if it's original. Do Dust, I'm listening to. It's a side scroller as well, and it's really intense visually. Man, that's exciting. You can announce to our Twitch viewers that we have a fully functioning Steam box now, or Linux box. Audio, Xbox controller.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, so the Linux machine works, and apparently can use controllers and things too. Delver's Drop doesn't work on it yet, unless you did some crazy magic in the last 5 minutes.
Use wine.
Huh?
Unless you use wine.
Oh, unless you're emulating Windows?
Yeah.
Well, okay, then probably anything is possible to some degree. If only that were the solution. Hey, yeah, Delver's Drop supports Linux as long as you use an emulator. So the bubbles should be pretty easy. I'm drawing all these a little bigger than they will probably be displayed in the game. So we can always, I mean, it's always better to reduce than enlarge, because things will get fuzzy if we enlarge it too much. So I'm erring on the side of slightly big for some of these. Yeah.
That's me, because like there's something against this
Let's see. A lot of talk about dragons in the comments. Dragons, dragons, zombie dragons, more dragons, small dragons, big dragons. Slime boss. Well, there are going to be some very, very large slimes, I think, or at least some very badass slimes. Um, I don't think we've talked about having a slime-based boss specifically, but I mean, the definition of boss for us is kind of, I mean, I guess the true bosses are like part of the dungeon. They're these biomechanical sort of things. But there will be a lot of enemies that, I mean, basically, like, what is a mini boss? It's a really badass enemy, and typically you get locked in with it and you can't leave until you kill it or you die, right? So there will probably be a decent number of enemies in the game that function that way, where it's larger, it's got a lot of HP, you get locked in a room, and so in that sense, yeah, we could very easily have a really nasty slime with high HP that's bigger than other slimes, probably spits fire and has acidic poop or something, and you've got to kill it or be killed. So yeah, slime boss confirmed, I guess, maybe. I'd have to actually go back and look at our list of slime types. I think there was one called a hell slime or something like that, that spewed fire and nastiness. So yeah, elemental slimes. Not every element, but there will be some. We, at least at one point, we did have slimes that would, when they start out slightly bigger, and when you hit them a couple times, they split into smaller slimes. Then you have to hit those and kill them. So I'm not sure. I think those disappeared at some point. I'm not sure why. Am I just crazy, Kobe, or has that not been in for like a year?
What's that?
Slimes that if you they're a little bigger, and if you damage them a few times, they split into two.
Oh man, that's not, and that wasn't a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's like pre-Kickstarter.
Oh, pre-Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Was it just in the Kickstarter video or something? Or can we get that back in? Maybe? What are you scared about? Kobe's grouchy today. I think it was trying to wrangle with the U.S. insurance website or something. Was that it?
Last night?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of the insurance people makes me cranky. Dust that we're in? No, it's good for the shit. Fucking sweet fox.
Okay, so next on my list is some sort of gas cloud. Like everything in Delvers, I'm trying not to use fuzziness too much unless it is a light. I did use it on the aura here, glowy effect, but I think for a gas cloud, I think I actually want it to be like a slightly more defined kind of sprite. Like everything in Delvers, where I'm trying to make everything feel in some way kind of like high res old school sprite art. Sort of Super NES era. I mean that's a pretty vague kind of artistic bullshitty idea in some ways, I guess. Like, because I mean, so how can you have pixel art unless it's actually made in like rectangular pixels, right? But we're using these kind of flat color areas, sharp angles, this kind of like fractured look. So it's almost like if pixels weren't square, what would like if they were all kinds of like random little triangular shapes, I guess. This may be one way to think about it. Um, But so yeah, I'm gonna see if I can make something that feels like a nice kind of puff of smoke or poison gas or steam or whatever. Uh,
This game's pretty intense visually. You got a lot of shit going on, a lot of animation.
and this would probably have some kind of a glow or something thrown on it. But it itself, I'd rather not make super fuzzy with a like a Gaussian blur effect or something. I probably won't outline it though, or maybe I'll just outline it with this kind of subtle color. I should probably just go ahead and make this grayscale now. We've got to make it grayscale later for tinting anyway, so we'll make it all look kind of cloudy. Let's catch up on comments.
I don't think my Mac can handle it. You might be surprised. This Linux machine is not
Really being at five
high
years
spec.
old.
6-year-old processor.
Yeah, so this would be slightly more of a solid cloud. I mean, we can make it semi-transparent like this, and probably will, but I just like for it to have a hard-edged look if it's something that's somewhat physical. I guess maybe that is a kind of better explanation for it. Like this aura isn't a physical thing, it's just an indicator on the character, like a light, glowy, showing that there's some kind of a status effect, whereas the gas cloud is something that you want to try to run around and avoid because it'll poison you or whatever it does. So, yeah, I mean, it's while you're running around, I do definitely want it to be very clear. So I'm gonna do kind of an underlayer underneath here.
Pretty much. It's some anime fun, Jupiter Red. So basically, when you hit B, she shoots out these like little long balls, and you get the light up and all the spin and smash around it. So it's yes. Well, they're using a lot of elements. Yeah, of course.
So I've got this separated into a few parts so we can move them kind of independently. Maybe I'll split a piece of this in front to a separate part. I think that could be kind of nice. It was actually a good idea that Nathan, aka Vacation Avenger, had for the slime, was to kind of split up the different colors of the slime, which I guess looks fairly similar to the this bubble that I was drawing. It has all these colored layers, and if you separate them into take the individual layers and export them into spine where we do our animation, you can kind of wobble these at different in different ways against each other, so they kind of parallax, and it makes it actually look very gelatinous and really nice. So I'm trying to set up a bunch of these to have a similar effect. Then I just need to fill in the interior of this guy. Let's see, what kind of magic effect would Merc-related spells have? Most of the Merc magic will probably just shoot Merc. So, I mean, we're going to have to kind of fudge the rules about what Merc is in some ways. Because we can't destroy anything in the room, right? Or you just, like, I don't know, we actually could, I suppose, have Merc destroy even indestructible objects. Well, I mean... there are ways that it could be done in the data, but I don't know. I mean, probably we will make up some kind of lore reason, like, well, if you do Merc magic, it's not as powerful as pure Merc because you couldn't control it if it were pure Merc or something. So it's like a lesser form. I don't know, something along those lines, and so it'll do damage like other elements, but to a pretty large degree to anything it hits, and maybe cause kind of poisoning or degenerative effects, so that they, if kind of untreated, they'll melt away. Something like that. I haven't really given it quite as much thought as maybe I should. Okay, let's set these to semi-opaque again. Yeah, it starts getting pretty light in that area, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, but you might need another one of these here. I think that actually looks a little better to put this one large piece over the top of the smaller pieces. It gives it a little more cohesive look. So I think that's probably pretty good. Um, checking the comments again. Let's see. Someone was asking, where on the form is that wheel of elements? Um, hey, Matthew. Would you be able to find on the forums where we had originally posted about elements? I think there was like a wheel of the elemental symbols. Someone was asking about it, and I don't even remember off the top of my head where it was. Although someone might have found something here. Oh, that was just a Google Drive folder. Never mind. But yeah, if you could find that and link it in the comments, that'd be awesome. Summon I'm probably not going to mess with right now, because it's going to require me to come up with some concepts for the kind of, well, not gods, but demigod things. I know that would be pretty fun for a live stream, but maybe some other time. They're kind of low on the priority list because it would really be more like status effects, like you would have this aura of a god over you, showing that you are protected by that god or have some special benefit.
Do you have any idea how you get through these things?
You have to use a special ability.
Just a special ability?
Yeah, I don't know where you get the special ability at. You find different like altars and stuff, and you get special abilities. I don't remember off the top of my head.
What are you guys talking about?
How to get through the sealed rocks and dust.
Oh, different game. I thought you were talking about our game. Apparently they're inaugurating our Linux machine by playing games on it. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yep. Having shit can run shit.
Is it going okay?
Actually, it seems to be really well. Like, it seems to run better than
Oh, that's kind of surprising, actually, considering the specs you said it had. I mean, I know some of them are good, but the processor didn't sound amazing.
Definitely not.
Is this thing something you can pick up? This flute hanging over?
I think you can knock them down and eat them, maybe?
This is the first one I've been looking at. Yeah, found it.
No, it should be stuck. Or no, just see it.
It gives you very good grip.
So yes, Doom Speaker, the demigods that sort of give you powers at the altars would be the same. Like probably you would walk up to an altar and whatever happens, you give a sacrifice, pray to it, whatever. It might just be like, do you want my blessing? And you hit yes. However we end up doing that, you would probably then have this aura envelop you, but you might also be able to get the similar kind of summon effects from tablets or scrolls or similar. But yeah, mainly these shrines would be where they occur. We might also do some kind of a something similar effect-wise for elemental forges, where you can dip a weapon in and pull it back out, and then it's elementally imbued. I don't know if we probably won't have gods or demigods specifically for elements, though. I guess is one thing. Although I mean, there are some kind of hooks that would, I think, lend to like doing that in the lore, like the elementalings, these little small blobs of fire. The blazlings are the one kind that's in the game right now. So it kind of makes sense that maybe there is some sort of an elemental demigod, but we haven't built it into the lore specifically. So I'll have to do some thinking about that, how I could maybe tie it in. As far as demigods cursing you, haven't really talked about that. I mean, it is kind of a cool thing in Spelunky, getting the ball and chain on you and so on if you do something that annoys Kali. But yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. It's kind of like one more thing on our pile of things to do. So, I mean, it's like if we build the system, the god could probably throw any effect on you that we want to script. I think the difference would be like, how do we script it so that there is like a good and a bad result, and what causes those results. And so that's the part I'm less sure about, because it would take some of Kobe's time to sort of program that. And I haven't even fully decided how you kind of trigger the blessing in the first place. What do you have to give something up? Do you just walk up to it and hit A? Like, those are all things that are going to require a little bit of attention design wise. It's kind of weird. Like I guess I put so much thought into the weapon system and how all of that would work and interact with the art and everything, that I've put way less thought into things like status effects and these shrines and just magic in general. Was kind of a big oversight early in the project, because we were so geared toward like characters, weapons. So yeah, so we'll see what we can do. Just not sure at the moment. right now I'm trying to make something that is going to look like a fireball, basically no matter what I do, but I'm working on something that could be like a launched orb or a shot orb of some kind of element, and then we would throw. Nathan already worked on one of these, but I'm doing a kind of the lower end version of it, and then we would throw like flicks of flame on this and tint it red, basically. So. Um, So it would end up doing something kind of like that, but fancier. Because then we would also have a light on it in the game, like this. And then we would usually I set it to color dodge in Photoshop to simulate what the light would actually look like in game. Let's go with a richer red. There we go. That's more like it. So yeah, there'd be a few of these kind of flame things flying off at any given time. So yeah, we'd end up with something kind of like that. Except most likely a bit brighter. It's kind of hard to simulate how it looks in game in Photoshop. Might need to just brighten this up overall. It's getting a little better. Still not quite as nice as I wanted it to be, but yeah, whatever happens rendering wise, like I've seen things at least that Nathan did in the game that looked quite a bit better than this once light got thrown on it. So I'll have to ask him if he had a trick up his sleeve or if I'm doing something wrong or what. I'd also thought though that we could do an overlay like this. So you've got your kind of color tinted underlayer. You've got an overlayer that lightens it. Maybe we set this to wrong layer. Set this to about 70% or so. Then throw the light on it, and it looks much brighter in the center. Let's try toning that down a little. So still not perfect, but I guess the thing is, the lights in the game do something kind of like a mix of overlay and color dodge, and it's always hard to know how to simulate it here. So, I mean, that's probably closer to what I would want it to look like, really. So, anyway. Let's see. So yeah, each zone will have some elements that it kind of emphasizes. So zone 2 is pretty ice themed. I mean, yeah, there will be a bunch of subdue elemental stuff. For anyone who isn't familiar with the elemental system, subdue is the name for our ice element. I mean, it's all the elements are more like kind of overarching forces of nature. So fury is the overarching element that sort of causes fire, but there are other fury effects that, I mean, they would all kind of look fiery or something, but a berserk effect would also be a fury effect. Let's see. And yeah, some zones will have more than one element present, or more than one element that you need to pick up to break down barricades and things like that. The game textures have gallows in them. Yeah, that is really just for story purposes. There won't be much that happens there. There might be a way that we can add sort of traps or something to it, but mostly you'd be able to walk up and just press the interact button. You get some kind of message. So it's really just more of a decorative set piece, though we could easily tie some story stuff to it. So, Nagato Payne was suggesting putting some cracks in the orange color. I'm guessing you mean like in the very center. I wouldn't mind doing that. I realize, well, you mentioned this kind of looks like a meteorite, which I would rather it look like an energy orb, so I'm a little hesitant to put cracks. But that it makes me realize, like, maybe I should smooth some of this out a little bit, because I do want it to be a little more fluid looking, actually. So there will probably be some things that look like a more physical kind of meteorite type thing. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea for how we treat the magic missiles, because I wanted to distinguish magic missiles from these kind of energy orbs by making the magic missiles look more like they had physical presence, where the energy orbs are just like glowy plasma, basically. And so these glowy plasma fireball type things would probably only cause elemental damage. They never cause crushing or slashing, where magic missiles are primarily crushing, slashing, piercing, and might cause bonus elemental damage. So that's at least how I've been thinking about it on sort of the damage back end of things. Whether any of that will matter terribly in the game is kind of yet to be seen. But I think it'll be pretty interesting to have all the damage types, because you'll have a weapon that works really well against most enemies, and then you'll run into an enemy that it doesn't work as well against, and you'll have to figure out what that enemy is susceptible to, or try a few different things and see what works. I may do something similar to what Nathan did on the fireball he was working on, and put a few kind of smaller I don't know what you would call these, kind of like bubbles of energy or something. Make it look a little more molten. Yeah, so the sort of overarching zone element means that if there's like a lot of subdue barricades and subdue stuff, ice on the ground, ice blocks, ice barricades in zone 2, you'll also see a decent number of ice enemies. So obviously you'll want a fire weapon, or just so you know, lightning is actually slightly better against ice than fire. Don't tell anyone. But because it hits it and shatters it, right? I don't know if anyone will like that, but that's the way we set up the opposition system. That's kind of how it worked out. So let's see. Okay, well, good. It sounds like the chat people are liking this revision. Just so you know, we would also have things like treasure chests with an elemental emblem on them, and you could only open the treasure chest if you hit it with the element of that emblem, as well as what was I just thinking of? Elemental, what we call rune locks. It's basically kind of a block with this ornamentation on it that kind of looks like puzzle pieces fit together in a way. But if you basically you would have to hit it with the element depicted on the rune on it to break it down. So we're going to use those as barricades. So you'd see a bunch of subdue rune locks in zone 2, or actually probably fire rune locks, since it's based on what weapon you have. So you'd have to use a fury weapon on the fury rune lock, or well, I call it fire rune just for simplicity most of the time, but it would be fury in the lore. Probably going to wrap up pretty soon. I've been going for an hour and a half. I know a lot of times I go to 5, but I like to wrap it up a little bit earlier today. Because I started working really early this morning, like 6 or something, 6 or 7. So well, let's see. Let's work on the magic missile. Actually, this is going to have, like I said, a few subtypes. And speaking about that meteor thing, gave me some pretty good ideas just now. So let's just do piercing, if I can spell correctly. Piercing has a C in it. So I was thinking, like, what if these were actually kind of crystalline? I mean, they would still look magical and glowy, but if a piercing magic missile, had some kind of shape like this. So it's going to look pretty nasty. Like you would not want to get impaled by one. I'm going to make a separate layer for the highlights, because we could actually sort of make it shimmer by sort of lighting up these different faces of the this crystal-like form. Oh shit. Well, there we go. Okay, so this would probably end up being sort of semi-transparent, so let's just, well, it's kind of hard to tell, so we'll make it a little less transparent. And then I would do something where these layers would sort of flash and fade as it flew through the air, by just increasing and decreasing transparency. So it would actually have this kind of shimmery look to it. So let's move this gladiator out of the way a little bit here, and I'll fill this with some color so we can see what's going on. So yeah, something kind of like that. Of course, we would also have a glowing light of some sort on it. Again, trying to kind of simulate what this would look like in game, actually. Yeah. So there we go. Something like that for Magic Missile. Might need a couple more little bits of this glassy stuff coming off of it. Oh, crap. Keep turning off contiguous. I'm forgetting that I did that. It's really getting on my nerves today, but of course it's my own fault. So something a little more like that. Let's tone those down again. Yeah. Let me save this, since I probably haven't in a while. Let's see. Oh man, bunch of comments. You guys must like this magic missile a lot. Homing crystal soul spear confirmed. Is that a reference to something? I don't even know. Sounds like something out of Dragon Ball Z. I used to love that show. I was a dumb teenager. Actually, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are super, super inventive, though. Like, I think the world is actually really interesting, even though, well, the show very slow because they were on a limited budget, and the comics kind of ridiculous and not the deepest writing or anything like that. But the world and some of the characters, at least, like, actually, you can kind of learn a lot artistically. I mean, you could also say like all of Toriyama's character designs end up looking the same at some point, but I think especially his vehicles are super inventive. So anyway, looks like shards of shrapnel. Yes, you're welcome for the stream. I certainly laugh if it only dealt 1 damage. Well, if something's impervious to piercing damage, it might only do 1 or 0. And then I'm gonna do a slashing, some kind of a blade. Probably will look like a crescent or something. Probably serrated a little bit, like a saw, like a half a saw blade type of thing, and something crushing. So probably would look a bit like a hammerhead, like a very flat. Maybe a little more like a comet, but with a flat front on it, like a flat cylinder or something. Oh, Dark Souls, I see. Dark Souls has a spell called Homing Crystal Soul Mass. So what does Homing Crystal Soul Mass do? I just, out of curiosity, I keep wanting to get into Dark Souls, and or even Demon Souls, and I don't know, I just don't have the time. Is basically the problem. I did start playing a little Spelunky again, though, just to get the gaming juices flowing. I mean, honestly, like, I think Delvers, if we're lucky, will I think feel like Zelda and Spelunky, and well, maybe a little bit of Dark Souls or Borderlands, but Zelda and Spelunky had a baby. So I guess I'm imagining literally like Princess Zelda and the Spelunky guy. Does he even have a name? I don't even know. Mr. Spelunky. They get married and have a child, and that child is Delver's Drop, and this child is sort of obsessed with crazy nuanced numbers. He's like a math insane person. Oh yeah, we've got a Darksiders fan, Nagato Pain. Yeah, I like Darksiders a lot. I didn't get terribly far into either Darksiders 1 or 2, but I thought they were really cool. I would like to beat them. They're kind of on my short list of games that I'm like, oh man, I need to finish playing them. Well, and yeah, and Binding of Isaac. Yeah, I guess I don't know that you would want Isaac or anything in Binding of Isaac to have a child with anyone, though, because it would be really deformed. So I'm going to go with Spelunky and Zelda. Uh, so I think I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap here since we nailed this piercing missile pretty quickly. So thank you everyone for your input, and even just things that you said that gave me ideas for this, because this actually, what I was probably going to do would have been much more lame, and I think it was just going to be like, it was just going to look kind of like the other energy ball thing I was doing, except pointy, and I think this is a much more cool idea. So I'll just have to figure out a way to make sure it doesn't look exactly like ice. We'll make it have some other effect thrown on top of it. But yeah, if we kind of go for like crystalline, and so you could have an ice piercing magic missile, which would have some little like ice snowflakey things coming off of it maybe. But I think that would be apparent enough. So we'll just have to come up with something on these that has a little bit of color but doesn't look like one of the elements, I guess, is the tricky thing we need to do. And Doom Speaker said that Darksiders 2 is really bogged down by their loot system. I really hope we don't run into the same problem, because I heard the same thing in several places that like it has lots of weapons. I guess I didn't really get far enough to kind of see the purpose of the number of weapons they had. I got a decent number of sub weapons, but it seemed like they had a crazy amount. Actually, I really really like the Darksiders 2 art as well. I always forget the guy's name. Is Joe Madrira, something like that. Joe Mad, I think, is how he usually abbreviates his name when he signs stuff. But art's really good. The weapon designs are really cool. I actually looked at them a decent bit to kind of get some inspiration for making Delver's Drop weapons more unique, because my art style in terms of design for weapons and clothing tends to be a little on the bland side, so I'm trying to force myself to spice it up a little bit. Okay, well, looks like I cut up on all the comments. And Doomspeaker assures me that we don't run into the dark side of problems, so that's good to know. We should discuss that on the forums more, and actually I should play that more. But anyway, until next week, I guess I will... I'm trying to make a habit of looking at the camera so you guys can see me, so I'm actually talking to you instead of talking to my computer screen image of myself, which is ambiguously like forum land or Twitch land somewhere up here.